Hello. Perhaps we should talk about death. It's a big subject. It's a powerful subject. When someone near us dies, friends tell us, "I'm sorry for your loss." When a loved one dies, we are stunned and do feel a great loss, like a hole has been torn in us, in our lives. Our zest for life often leaves us. The taste of food goes away. It seems flavorless. Ordinary joys and satisfactions seem flat and not worth our while. We become like sleepwalkers, going through our days mindlessly, or we closet ourselves away and sit numbly. In 1983, my mom passed, and I flew back to Canada, to Saskatchewan and Alberta for the funeral and to meet a lot of old friends. At the same time, a guy who lived across the alley from me, we were both drummers together in the band, his brother was flying a jet plane for the Royal Canadian Air Force, and he had a horrible crash, and he had just passed. So my friend was now the city manager of our hometown, and I went to see him. And I'm not sure we looked like zombies, although perhaps we did. We just kind of moved through the conversation. Of course, it was warm coat country. He took my coat, and we sat down to talk. We could both hardly speak. My mom had passed. She meant so much to me. His brother passed. It was tough. So we try to converse, but we're not really there in the room. We're living in our grief. And the passing of a loved one can be so hard that it knocks us off our pegs for a while. I recall I had just entered the room, and he was just going through the motions, my friend Bob. And so I said something that made him feel that the meeting was over. So he had just put my coat on the hanger, sat down. We had hardly any words. Then he rose mindlessly and gave me my coat, and I said, "Oh no, I wanted to talk a while." So then he put my coat back on the hanger. That's the shape we were in. It shakes us. The passing of a loved one can be powerfully helpful in making our mind right, resetting our priorities. Okay, so what's really important if we die? What's really important about living? Also, what do I want to do with my remaining days and years before I die? Also, our appreciation of life can be sweeter. We can be grateful that we get a new day and then another new day, and that they go on and on. Sri Ramakrishna says, grief tries to push out your devotion. Here you have this wonderful love for God, and now it's being shaken. Very often your devotion goes way down or goes away. Or perhaps you turn to God in your grief and you feel God's comfort. I felt a great deal of comfort, but I was still in grief. I suggest open your grief to God, and God will heal you. Our loss and our grief can make us spiritual and better people. Yogis call grief a fetter or a chain which ties us to ignorance and ego. Our grief is a chain, often is, which ties us to ignorance of spirit and ego. We must get release from this grief chain. So loving God, being open to God in the process of grief is essential, I would say. We need to let God heal our grief, to comfort us and make us whole again. God does this very well if we allow God to do this. And if we heal, we live a richer, fuller life for having known that beloved person. They've enriched our life, inspired us in heart and mind. If we heal, we live a richer, fuller life. If our grief doesn't heal, we live an impaired life and are often self-destructive in one way or another. The funeral director at my mom's funeral said this quote that funeral directors say, "Funerals are for the living, for the healing of the living." They enable people to say goodbye and adjust to this new dimension of life for them. Funerals are for the living, for the healing of the living. So I thought I'd share a few observations about death, having experienced the passing of several beloved people, and having watched this process go on in me and in the loved ones of the departed. Here are a few observations about death from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, our great mentor at the Yoga Center. And so these may take away the sting of death and grief. They're worth pondering, and they are very healing ideas. He says, there is no death for the soul. My mom's soul went on. She didn't die, cease to exist. She just gave up her body. There is no death for the soul, yours or mine, or anyone's. The soul is beyond life and death. It's beyond. The soul is still there. The death of the body is like the birth of a child after the pain of delivery. Death is like a birth. Mystics call it the great initiation into a new level of being and consciousness. We are aware of death and fear death because of our identification with the body. We think we're a body. We're so used to thinking body, body, body. We're aware of death and fear death because of our identification with the body. In death, you sink back into the lake of immortality. Isn't that beautiful? In death, you sink back into the lake of immortality. Sinking in the lake of immortality transcends death, goes beyond death. There is no fear of death in the ocean of spirit. So when friends, colleagues, the airplane staff, who somehow had a message about you, and they're particularly kind, when they say, "I'm sorry for your loss." What is the loss? It's the outer form, not the soul, not the spirit. In meditation, we connect with eternal life. Our souls are eternal, pure, and painless. The souls of our loved ones live on and wish us well and love us still. And we can know this and feel this in meditation and prayer. May God bless you as you deal with death and as we all face the leaving of this body. May it be a beautiful, conscious act of spiritual awareness, of love and light, of wholeness, compassion, and well-being. God bless you.